very strong. Actually, the Mishnah where in Ovis where it speaks about his. You probably know it better than me. What's the line again? Altas Vadel Rushas.
Right.
The sister somebody over there explains that it doesn't mean you shouldn't have contacts or connections or relationships with government. It only says that you got to watch how you distribute public money, which you use for government. That you shouldn't basically put all your eggs in one basket, because then when things go, break loose, everybody runs away. In other words, you got to be very measured with whom you put in your interests, and that it certainly it was on display, as you just explained in your case. Okay, let's move on. From the presidential field, who do you think would be most qualified or able or have the strongest background or willingness to root out corruption from Washington?
Well, I'm very careful about talking about the presidential race, because people who I might be in favor of won't be doing too well if people hear I'm in favor of them. So I'm very cautious to comment. But I think that people need to look at it and realize, first of all, they're all politicians, and that until people are held accountable, these politicians with some of these issues, the way that they're held accountable on taxes and things like that, it's going to be a constant battle. But I think for me to comment on the race probably wouldn't be helpful.
Very good. Going back a step a little bit regarding the justice system, I think of you as someone who was on both sides of it. You were in Washington, where laws are created, and you were on the receiving end too. And one of the issues that the Orthodox community specifically gets to see a lot is the sentencing guidelines. I think it's practically nuts how many years white-collar, non-violent, first-time offenders can get for the same thing. Certainly when the government comes back and puts on it 10, 15 counts. The question is, twofold. First of all, what's your take on this? I'm going to call it Michigan system, because it is. It's Meshuggah. It's crazy. And secondly, is it possible to correct the system, or it's a waste of time? Because let me expand. I think 25 years ago, in the 80s, they came up with the sentencing guidelines. But what happened, instead of it should help a person, it's being used against a person. Because this crime, a person can get 3 to 5 years. Okay, we'll give him 5 counts. Each count, 3 to 5 years. So let me make a big kugel there. As you said before, people mostly, when they get caught up in the system, they get found guilty. Is that because people are so criminal, or there are so many laws out there that you can bust anyone? And then to the sentencing,
I think that there are certainly too many laws. There's no question about it. The expansion of the federal criminal code in the last 2 decades is outrageous. It was never intended, by the way, that the federal criminal code should be so big. State criminal codes were certainly intended to cover most of these things, and most of these things are covered in state criminal codes. Additionally, they criminalized contract cases. One could argue that a good portion of my case was a contract case, but they've criminalized it.
What's a contract case? Can you expand on it?
Yeah, in other words, that you have a dispute. My clients ostensibly said that I didn't perform for them. Okay, so let's go to court and sort that out. We're going to go to criminal court, where the penalty for me is I go to prison. That's not very appropriate. So I think that a lot of it has expanded, unfortunately, and that's a consequence of liberals and conservatives who made the federal state far too big. The sentencing guidelines are they're not technically in application, but of course they're being applied, and they're very, very tough. I think that white-collar criminals, so-called, are treated badly because in this country, and we see this with this Occupy movement and all the rest, that has taken over. Okay, that they basically are tremendously envious of people, and they've gotten to the point where people who are wealthy are viewed as the enemy, and people who are successful are viewed as the enemy, and people, look, unfortunately, some people cross the line. I crossed the line. I did commit a crime. I did break the law. Now, my base sentence was 10 years on a plea. Okay, I got it reduced, but that was my base sentence. Is that right? Is that fair? That's a lot of time. But somebody else in my case wound up convicted him, and they wanted to give him 17 to 24 years in prison for the same case. I mean, no, the judge said no, that she's not doing that, to her credit. But it's out of control in a certain respect. But I don't expect there'll be any changes made, because unfortunately, if you take a poll of the American people, you're not going to find any sympathy for white-collar folks. People's attitudes, you see what people wrote about me.
Yeah, I did, sure.
I should get the death penalty, I should get this. I mean, crazy. Look at Rabashkin, look at other cases like that. I mean, that's nuts. But this is what we're living in right now in America.
So the issue, I had many discussions and meetings with activists in the community, and we constantly have this conversation back and forth if it would be plausible to start do certain changes in the system. And I guess maybe I'll talk with you later about it. But off the top of your head, you would say it's certainly a tough battle to combat?
There's no question about it, because you're fighting the culture. And Hollywood has basically trained America to hate people who are business. And that's why there's far more antipathy toward people who are white-collar criminals than anybody else.
Yeah.
Far more.
I think we saw that in New York City, where a guy who certainly had a long rap sheet, he just shot a cop. Everybody's busy blaming the judge, but have you noticed that the prosecutor, the DA's office, I think Hines in Brooklyn, asked for only $2,500 bail? Are you kidding me? And then two judges decided, yeah, he can go, he can walk. And I'm sure that if any white-collar criminal, how small or large the actual crime may be, would be in front of these judges, Charles Hines will probably ask $100,000 bail, because this greedy guy tried to make a living off the back of the poor Bobby and Zadie. But then again, when you have bloody killers, real criminals, and the system, certainly on the liberal side, it seems to be okay. It's not his fault. Give him a chance, let him out. It certainly is certainly crazy.
Unfortunately, this is what we're living in.
Yeah.
This is what we're living in.
Yeah. I have another two more questions, and I'll wrap it up. What would be the single best thing or tactic to reduce this huge amount? I think the United States has the most people sitting in prison in terms of percentage-wise, and a quarter of the people who are incarcerated in world prisons, officially at least. I don't think we include certain countries, but if you look at the free world, 25% of people in prison are in the United States, and a huge number of Americans sit. What would be the key or the best way to reduce this unschikanish? And do you think, is there like a lobby out there who wants more people in the system because they can sell more products to the prison system and they have a good living off of people being behind bars?
Well, when you're in prison, you hear that all the time. But I have to tell you, I don't think that's true. Okay? I don't think it's... I know the people who lobby for the prisons, they're not that competent, to be honest with you, that they could pull that off. I think the problem is that Americans want people in prison. Americans like to hear people are in prison. And until that changes, we're going to have a constant fight. And unfortunately, it's not going to be anytime soon.
It's not really anytime soon because nobody takes up the fight, or it's a lost cause?
Until it happens to you or somebody you know in America, most Americans are hugely anti-quote criminal. Okay? Then when it happens to them, they start screaming. Yeah. But meanwhile, then when it happens to them, it's too late. And so I think that the likelihood of helping white-collar criminals is very tough. That doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. People shouldn't go for it. And it shouldn't be... I think the only thing that will get changed is the cost factor. The fact that all of this prison is costing billions of dollars. And as they're running out of money, they're going to need to start thinking about what to do.
Yeah, they're certainly doing it in California. They're letting free a lot of people. I'll ask you one more question, then I'll want to take with you a few minutes of the conversation here. If you can return to your old business of lobbying, would you do it?
No, how am I going to do it?
I know you can't, but if you can.
Yeah, but I'm saying, let's say I'm a lobbyist now. All right, lobbyists are supposed to go meet with congressmen. Tell me who's the congressman who's going to be happy to be meeting with me about lobbying?
I know that.
You know, but second of all, even if I could, even if that were possible, and all of them would be with me, you know, I got to the top of that business, okay, and then I got assassinated. Why would I want to go back there? You know, look, I'm not going to tell you it wasn't fun when I was doing it. I wasn't successful. I had tremendous success. All right, I think I figured out the kunst of the whole thing, and I was able to do it in a way that most people couldn't. But at the end of the day, where did it lead me? And second of all, I truly do believe that it's the kind of thing that I shouldn't have been involved in. I mean, it's absolutely shochet. You know, the way the system is. Now, could I have done it without that? Yeah, maybe I could have. All right, but there are other things to do in life. I just don't. I don't see myself returning.
All right.
I mean, I'm not. You know, that's not to say, by the way, I'm not going to try to help, and I do certain efforts to lobby certain causes, give advice. I do give advice. Even companies come to me for advice. That's different from lobbying.
It's consulting. You consult them. No, Newt Gingrich.
Not quite like that. Not quite like that. I mean, people will come to me sometimes and say, you know,